は僕をダメなやつと思う。鏡を見つめる僕を見下げているけど、中には大きな力希望がある。 Maybe I'm a little young, but you don't know what I become. Can't you see it in my face? A demon living in disguise, but you can see the killer in my eyes. I've got a look you can't escape. You can't escape. No one understood the world that I was making. Look me in the face and tell me I was faking. Maybe I'm a little young, but you don't know what I become. Can't you see it in my face? A demon living in disguise, but you can see the killer in my eyes. I've got a look you can't escape. You think you've got my number figured out? A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine. I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. I wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine. I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, and if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, till it's perfect.
Gotta want it, gotta need it. Only get what you put in. Give me something to believe in. Feel the sweat on my skin. Gotta want it, gotta need it. Only get what you put in. Give me something to believe in. Feel the sweat on my skin. I put the work in, 'cause I'm worth it. And I think I found somebody who deserves it. If you put the work in, you can earn it. You and me together could be perfect. Put the work in, 'cause I'm worth it. And I think I found somebody who deserves it. If you put the work in, you can earn it. Got the kind of body that I wanna put my body on.
Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Turn up the heat, don't stop till it's perfect. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Turn up the heat, don't stop till it's perfect. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Turn up the heat, don't stop till it's perfect. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Turn up the heat, don't stop till it's perfect.
How could you do that to me? You got me bouncing off the walls while I can't breathe. For a shadow when you're so fucking lonely. Alone, alone, alone. So fucking lonely. For a shadow when you're so fucking lonely. So fucking lonely. So fucking lonely. So fucking lonely. Gotta be the better man. Don't know if we can trust him, but we gon' let him in. How do I do that to me? You got me bouncing off the walls while I Jump up and dance with me. Your lips are ecstasy. I'm on a mission. Let's go disco kissing. Love when you're next to me. Dangerous tendencies. Turn up the tension. Let's go disco kissing.
Welcome to the Sunday. Wait, when is it? What is it? Today's Thursday, Monday? I don't know what day it is. Holy cow. Alright, well, we kind of got something working. It's kind of working. So, I have no idea what is going on, with regards to the microphone that I normally use. It is absolutely cooked. It is absolutely cooked. So there's not really much of anything that I can do with that. Yeah, live from Polymarket Studios. What if I do, no, it's not the wire, it's the actual, microphone itself. It is cooked. That microphone is probably dead. So I will have to see what's gonna happen with it. So it is what it is. Yeah. But hey, this one will do just fine. This one will do just fine. Nadia, welcome. So let me say hello to a couple of people here. Michael Hassler, welcome. Bruno, Jesse James, welcome everybody. I hope that it sounds okay and you can hear me okay, because I have no idea how the actual audio is coming out on your end. But I imagine it's coming out pretty, it's coming out loud enough anyways. Sorry. Regarding Bad Empanada, he makes valid points, but I think he's often a bit extreme. I'm not a big fan of Bad Empanada, I'm gonna be honest. You're good? Alright, cool. Audio is good. Alright, that's all that matters, folks. So, it is what it is. I'm gonna have to be using this for now. But whatever. It works. This is what fried. It's gone. It won't even turn on anymore. Maybe I should just put it, maybe I should just put it, Jesus Christ. Oh, I see what's happening. The speakers here are making a feedback. Got it. I know how to correct this. By lowering my volume. Alright. Welcome, Bunker Cat on Bad Empanada Nuts. Is on Bad Empanada Nuts. I don't know why he thinks he's Auntie Hassan. That's still on the left. I don't know. Not a big fan of Bad Empanada. You're here and that's what matters. True, I'm just me. Thank you. Lance has also taken apart Kurzakat. I think that Kurzakat has like a lot of problems. I was very skeptical of some of their like climate videos. So kind of so that's kind of what happened. Wait, the broken mic caused the feedback? No, I found out what happened. The audio from here was it was loud enough for it to be picked up on the mic because this is a condenser mic, and then fed that back to me and created a huge feedback that like destroyed my ears, but that's okay. So the best way of fixing that is just to lower my output. and we're good. Anyways, we fixed it. It's, well, not fixed it, but I changed my audio. And it is what it is. It's what we're going to use. And going forward, that's probably what we're going to end up being using, because that's all I've got. Judgment Free Zone, welcome. So I might have to just kind of adjust a couple things here. But going forward, this is probably what I'm going to end up having to use. Not particularly happy with that. This is supposed to be my recording mic. It's not really made. I don't really like using it for streaming, but it is what it is. So that's just what we're gonna have to use. That's just what we're gonna have to use. Anyways, yeah. Alright, folks. A lot of time fixing problems and not enough time streaming, because it is basically the holidays, folks. So before we get started, before we get started, a couple of things with regards to the holidays. Thursday, I think Wednesday and Thursday, there will be no stream. So that is, yeah, Wednesday and Thursday. That's the 24th and 25th. There will be no streams. Everything else is as normal. So the tomorrow at this space, that's still gonna go. That's still gonna go. But other than that, the same applies for next week. That would be the 31st and the 1st. There will be no streams, folks. Where the stars are for relative syllable stress. Ah, Kurzakat. Kurzagot. Kurzagot. Oh, I'm never going to be able to pronounce that. I knew all the streamers would disappear early. Yeah, no, just me. I'm sure there's going to be other streamers around. Who are going to do Christmas streams and stuff like that for the love of the game. And I truly respect that, honestly. But no, not this one. That's right. Google Translate is really useful for that. Redmond Berry, welcome. Yeah, the holidays, folks, the holidays. Sadly, that's the best framing and values have to offer, in my opinion, at this late hour. Yeah. The legendary ADT, welcome. Globus the Elder, welcome, welcome. Putting on my super professional podcast gear up front here. Dude, you missed it. Literally, as I was getting ready to start stream, everything was going fine, and I was about to get live. I was about to, you know, pop up the normal stream, and my microphone short circuits. My microphone literally short-circuited. And, all I'm left is with this monument. All I'm left is with this monument of technological failure, okay? That is bad. Yep, it won't turn on at all. At all. So this entire time, like, you came in at a perfect time because we're about to start. But right before, I was literally fighting and struggling, trying to scramble on what to do. I almost went and grabbed a headset, because I didn't know what else to do. I almost just grabbed my gaming my gaming headset. I was about to go and grab it, and And then I realized, wait a minute, I have a recording mic that I can use. I just need to tweak it a little bit. And then I'll be able to use it. And here we are. It's 1:45 here. My roommate will scream if I live stream. Oof. No, but see, that's the cool thing. Like, you don't have to like stream around these hours. What you could do, I don't know if this is like a Twitch thing that you want to do. I kind of caught some of the earlier comments, so excuse me if I didn't read all of them. But if you want to start streaming, first of all, let us know so we can, you know, bump it up, just like we're gonna bump up Globus over here. Please, if you want to, of course. Don't, you know, feel free. But Twitch also allows you to kind of do reruns too. You can just stream reruns. So you stream your normal lives at your normal time at whenever, and then you can do like reruns later, and you don't have to do much. Just make sure that there's like a moderator. Yeah, put it on a plaque. Yeah, if you're trying to solve the climate crisis from the lens of capitalism, I think it's gonna fall short. I think it's gonna fall short. I like, seriously, like you can't you can't tackle the climate crisis without addressing the capitalism aspect of it. I don't mean to be doing math and code and stuff and maybe language. That's pretty cool. Hey, there's not a lot of that stuff on Twitch. So there's definitely there's definitely like a niche for that on Twitch and YouTube, so that's cool. But then the money might be sad. True. We don't want the money to be sad, folks. We want the money to endlessly grow on a finite planet. It might say a lot of crap, but certainly not when on when assessing Kurzakat's video. Yeah, no, if you're talking about Bad Empanada, yeah, I'm sure he has valid points. And used to make great videos. I haven't watched Bad Empanada in a while, but yeah. Yeah, literally, it zapped. Like, I'm not even kidding. Okay, so let me explain what happened, okay? Let me explain the series of events before we get started. So right before I went live, or I was thinking about going live, I touched my arm, okay, my boom arm, right? This is the boom arm. And there was some static, like I had static on me, and I shocked the boom arm, okay, and that's when it stopped working. That's when the microphone stopped working. Coincidence? I don't know. I can't imagine that a simple static would seriously hurt the microphone, right? Most electronics nowadays are designed to handle like a little bit of static, right? Like that would be kind of weird. That would be asinine. That would be kind of weird, right? Like it just doesn't make any sense, but it may have been just a coincidence. I do know a lot about audio, and I have never seen that happen, but I guess it could. Or maybe it was just its time. Maybe it was just the microphone's time. It's been with me for years, and it is what it is. I can't take the money. The job doesn't allow side gigs. Also, speaking publicly on politics and economics or social issues is a no-go. Well, you don't have to talk about that. And you can just make it as like a, a pet project, right? You don't have to monetize anything. I mean, it's up to you, obviously. Static electricity can fry electronics. That was likely it. No way. We're witnessing ADT's superhero arc, seriously, or villain arc, depending, because I can't imagine that it could have fried it, but I guess it can. I just expected, you know, that electronics have some kind of guardrail against that, because static is so common that you would think that you would think that they would have some kind of guard against it. But hey, it just happened right after I touched it, so yeah, I guess so. I guess static can fry the electronics like that, like at least my microphone. But anyways, that's basically what happened. You're sometimes savage, exposing the truth, but not villain. I worked in a factory with one department that had product that generated static and 100% has fried devices. We own the hardware not to use wired buds, and MP3 players, wireless buds might fry. Seriously? Whew. You can imagine capitalists knowing exactly how much that would cost and deciding, nah. True. Nicki Minaj at Turning Point. I know, she's become some kind of MAGA personality. It's kind of weird. Like in theory, of course, engineering solutions exist. Yeah, of course. Like, most modern electronics have some kind of, well, the more expensive ones have some kind of guard. Like, if I touch my laptop, and it's not going to fry it. I've touched other stuff several times, but I think Nadia is also correct. When you build computers, generally speaking, although it's not as common anymore, it's not as necessary anymore, but you would wear these bracelets, these anti-static bracelets to build computers. So maybe I need to start wearing that so I don't fry my next microphone. Seriously. Naga Minaj. Yep. In practice, the profit margins only permit this much quality at the price point they are willing to produce and sell it to us plebs at. If you're, like if you spring for the however many $100 or $1,000 option, then sure. You get a luxury product that is just a product that fulfills the basic expectations it was sold to you as that would have just been standard version not that many decades ago. True. I.e., enshittification. That's true. There are mats to help prevent static electricity too. Yep, that's right. Oh, these are things that you use when you build the computer. That's right. Alright, folks, I gotta get started, because we are way past time. Me fiddling around and trying to fix all this stuff, we're way past time. Let's go. Let's get started. You ever get the feeling you're being cheated? And I actually planned for a relatively short stream since it's like the freaking holidays. And I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. And here we are. That's her new name, Maga Minaj. For now on, I shall only refer to Nicki Minaj as Maga Minaj. It's pretty apt, I think.
Fascism isn't unique to America. In fact, it's becoming increasingly common all throughout the world, notably in Italy, France, Germany, the UK, Hungary, Bolivia, Brazil, Argentina, and elsewhere. And the rise of fascism is a direct result of the collapse in global capitalism, because when people's material conditions aren't met for so long, they begin to feel desperate, and that desperation makes them susceptible to radicalization.
Oh God, so life. No.
Which is often exploited by opportunistic politicians who scapegoat minorities for the failures of the system. But fascist demagogues never actually improve material conditions for working people once they take power.
Yeah, of course, they never will. That's not the point of fascism, right? What was I trying to say? Oh, okay. So let me add to that. So the reason why we see Trump. When we see Trump, we've already gone too far. Okay, Trump isn't like the Trump isn't like the nexus of everything. If you're seeing Trump already, it's because we are already cooked. Okay. Trump doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Or a Trump personality, I should say, doesn't just appear out of nowhere. When you see the Trumps of the world, right, the fascists of the world start to appear, it's because things are already beyond cooked. Yeah, we also have a materialism problem, but moving ahead. Therein lies the effing trap we find ourselves in. It's much easier to lie to people with promises of false solutions to gain temporary power than to actually get people on board with the hard work of actual solutions. Yep. Buying things we don't need with money we don't have. But we have credit cards, right? That's cool. You know, like when we talk about like consumer spending and stuff like that, how much of that is on credit? Thank you so much. Subscribing with a tier 1 sub for 51 months. Look at that. Anyways, yeah, I agree. Seth Evans, and we would even have money possibly if that was our if it was our money actually. Yep. Building is weird here. It's really any sort of manipulation. The cases in housing are what conducting static electricity away from sensitive electronics. Huh. Thank you so much for the support, Heat. Look at the situation we found ourselves in. I don't know if you can hear the difference, or if it's if it's okay. But yeah, this is the situation we found ourselves in. The microphone that I normally use is cooked. Fascism is on the rise because greedy, power-hungry folks, greedy, power-hungry fucks finally understand the technology to make it happen. Yep, it works fine for me. All right. Welcome, Cognizant. We're in this weird fucking contradictory place of all the things we're supposed to do. We're either hamstrung from doing it, or it's an increasingly obvious trap. They're not interested in what a democratically directed economy would actually produce and distribute. Yep. Hope you are well. Yeah, I'm hanging in there. Just bizarre turn of events trying to get this stream going, but we're here. The case and housing aren't always entirely successful in keeping the electronic current from ending up going through the sensitive electronics. Oof. Yeah, maybe that's what happened. Here, maybe this was just not right. You know, the static hit it, and that's it. All the money that belongs to the government, even that you hold in your hand, unlike oligarchs might try to convince you of otherwise, so taxation is in fact not theft. Yeah, I mean, anyone that says taxation is theft is doesn't understand how that works.
Or rather, they consolidate power and reinforce the existing capitalist status quo, but through force, since the system can no longer be sustained through normal democratic means, seeing as how it's lost popular support. But think about why...
The ground was the mic. Yeah, probably. It's probably what ended up happening. Because, I mean, it's so weird because it's never... It's never fried it before, and, it's, you know, it's not like I haven't touched it with static. But I guess today was the day. Anyways.
Liberalism always devolves into fascism. Why does this happen? See, once oligarchs accumulate so much power and wealth by rigging the system against everyone else, working people begin to question why things have gotten so bad. And fascists give them an answer to that.
It's the immigrants, it's the other. BCAT, welcome. It's very telling when someone like Sam tries to take them down the history of private property. No, we're starting the history arbitrarily here. Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. Yeah, I'm not taking no, and I am taking no questions on the significance of this date. Schmagley, welcome. The more static in the air in winter? True. 5 p.m. It's 5 p.m. somewhere, folks, so that means it's time. Time to unwind, folks. Why can't I pay rent working 40 hours a week? That's the kind of question that demands an answer. Yep. Yeah, and usually the conservative answer to that is skill issue. Get good. Get 3 jobs. Get 3,000 jobs, okay? If you can't pay rent on 10,000 jobs, okay? If you don't spend every waking hour working, then like that's a skill issue.
Question.
That's literally how they think.
It's minorities. It's immigrants, trans people, black and brown people. It's not the right answer, obviously, but it's an answer nonetheless. And that thought process is exemplified with tweets like this. Quote, I am becoming more and more convinced that the vast majority of America's problems could be solved by deporting immigrants. Housing, healthcare, wages, inflation, traffic, huge amounts of crime. And he adds, I'm genuinely...
Yep. Sleep is for the rich, yep. The history of private property is to large degree unknowable. Where it seems to have appeared is within prehistory. Fascinating. I mean, usually, like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know, like, the fundamentals of where this all came from. But at the end of the day, private property is designated by the government. Like, all of this is directed by the government. Static builds up is not all equal. Trust me, I practically worked in the Franklin Institute with the contraption that lights a light bulb with static from a glass-filled plastic strips. Really? I know that some, static, is not, the same, but it's just fascinating because it didn't even feel that much. It's not like I had, like, a large buildup of static throughout the day. I usually, like, discharge the static just by touching stuff like the, like the metal, whatever. So, yeah, it just blew my mind because, like, it's not... I didn't feel like it was, or should have been a lot. I barely even felt it, honestly. And sleep is for the rich, and at least enough of the population can convincingly tell themselves a story where they're virtuous and the others aren't, and that's the difference when it creeps on a majority. The persuasive power wanes. Yep. And people go look for other answers as more reasonable explanations. Yep. Twitter account based in Pakistan. Weren't a lot of these MAGA accounts, like, they're not they're based in, like, Russia and, like, Pakistan, India, things like that, countries like that. What? That's crazy, So Life. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, the crime is coming from inside the country. I'm based in Germany. Yes, and that is awesome. As long as the statics you are touching is in static X, which would be dope anyways. Someone said Merry Christmas to me, so I got violent screamed shit myself and dyed my hair blue, as you should.
Starting to wonder if nearly all the problems in America today could be fixed by just deporting 100% of undocumented immigrants. Yeah.
Which obviously is, like, is ludicrous to say. To say that, like, deporting all the quote-unquote illegals, right, undocumented people, is gonna solve the problems of the United States. They're not the root cause. Like, that's what's missing from that line of logic here. The undocumented people are not the cause of the problem, right? Like, the reason why housing prices are high is not because of brown people, okay? The reason why housing prices are high are because greedy corporations are gobbling up housing, okay? And artificially squeezing the supply. As an example. It's not the immigrants. Never has been. That is so cool, So Life. They aren't illegals. They work illegally for greedy corporations. Yeah, that's another question. That's another point. Like, it's not, if you were actually, like, why isn't a conversation never like, hey, you know, we have to, like, browbeat these poor immigrants, right? And not a single corporation ever gets in trouble for any of this. When was the last time you saw a corporation, when was the last time you saw a corporation get fined or go or be criminally investigated for hiring undocumented people? It doesn't happen. I live in one of the most expensive cities in Canada as a homeowner, and the misdirected hate is so obvious. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, someone pulling an 18-hour shift is taking your $1 million house from you. Yeah, but see, I as the median, what is the median salary of the American average Americans? Like 36 to 40,000 a year, right? We can just look this up. It's, oh, well, I'm way off base. The average, national average, okay, so we're just gonna have to take this with what it is, because obviously we have the stratification, so we're just gonna have to take it as it is. The average salary is $63,795, and that's not a lot, just to be clear. Okay. It's about 63,000. And mind you, this is taking into account the stratification of like really, really wealthy people and then like really poor people. So kind of you kind of have to take it with that in mind. But anyways, 63,000 is not that much at all. The median is a better indicator than the average. Okay, that's actually a better question. Median salary of an American. It's kind of close. It's a bit lower. 61,000. So it is a bit lower. It's a couple thousand lower. And actual analysis have pegged it around 40 to 46. The 50% of bottom has 2% of the wealth. The upper 50 is being averaged with the lower. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Actual analysts have pegged it around 40 to 60. Oh, that's at 40 to 46. That's kind of what I was thinking, just based on like, just off the top of my head. Just knowing like what wages look like around the country. I kind of figured it was anywhere from like 35 to 40. Just taking like a cursory kind of look at the wages. I kind of hit that number ish. I was a little bit lower, but of course when you average or when you take the median, you kind of get lumped in with the really stratified sector. So that's what I'm saying. You kind of have to just take that in mind. But regardless, let's just say, okay, let's just say and use that number as a baseline, right? The 60,000, 61,000. That is not a lot of money, okay? So if you're making like $60,000, okay, you should not be mad at like immigrants who are making far less, okay? They're not the ones that are causing the problems, okay? They're not the ones that are causing the problems. Yeah, but get mad at immigrants though, exactly. Which means that upwards of 2/3 of people are one missed paycheck away from financial ruin. Yeah, and that's still the case. I, a Canadian, boycott Tim Hortons because if coffee is burnt and I have diabetes. It just seems like a lot because on paper at least. There are a lot of people making zero. Yep. Yeah, no, it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. So the point being is that let's say you make like minimum wage. Why are you complaining about immigrants? Why are you not complaining about someone like an Elon Musk, as Seth Evans points out? The Tories here are so close to getting it too. They don't want to eat at A&W because of immigrants and them not paying Canadians. Oof. Well, yeah, that's the thing though. Like it's not that's what fascists prey on. Okay, it's not that they're wrong in the sense of like pointing out that there is something deeply wrong with the country, right? It's just that fascists exploit racism and xenophobia and provide that as the answer, right? Like the problem isn't the billionaires. Don't look at them, okay? Let's talk about the brown people. Let's talk about the trans people. Let's talk about the LGBTQ community, right? Let's talk about let's talk about those people, right? Let's never mind the billionaire class. That's worse than the Great Depression, bad? Oof. Like 1 single million in a year is 16 effing times, actually rounding to nearest whole than more than 60k. Yeah, that's true. Look at this person who looks different to you and what they have and not what we have. Yep. That's probably honestly no small part of how this shit is able to go as long as it's stable as it has. Yep. Ladybug, welcome. Like, it took capitalism for inequality of this magnitude to even come to exist anywhere in this universe? Yeah, and then it just kind of, like, naturally implodes, right? Because it just starts to turn inwards, right? This is not sustainable. Does the YouTube chat suck so people flee to Twitch? Oh no, I think they're on to me. I think the YouTube people are on to me. Let's just brush right across that. There was a stop immigration protest in Victoria, middle of the week, midday on a workday. I think a couple folks showed up. Status Quo said, which I'm actually a big fan of the work that Status Quo does, said unrigging the unemployment stats with just 2 of the strategies is rigged with gets a number about 25%. It's bad. You know, I think it's really bad. I think it's really bad, and I know this because I'm talking to friends who are applying for jobs, and it's really difficult, and it's not easy. It's not easy. There's hundreds, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this. There are hundreds of people applying to the same job. Like, I'm saying hundreds of people applying to the same job, and it's like that is rough. That is rough. Just shy of under 30%. I mean, that sounds like what Nadia was saying. 25%. So that sounds about right. I mean, it sounds like you folks are in the same ballpark here. Looney Tunes, welcome once again. The Woke Humanist Report picking on me, your favorite president. That's me, Donald J. Trump. Do not subscribe to him. He's very woke. We do need to make a second New Deal policy. Yeah, we need to go further than that. Clearly, the first New Deal policies were just a band-aid that was too easy to rip off. why have we not gone back to Venus? I think that's kind of like a silly question, right? Like, the reason why, I don't know if this is a genuine question, but I'll answer it. It's because Venus is completely uninhabitable. There's no way. There's no way.
It's not the endless greed of billionaires or the system that allowed them to exist in the first place. It's other working class people. And this idiot didn't come to this conclusion on his own volition. He's likely parroting propaganda that was paid for by billionaires who are doing everything that they can to prevent working class people from having the class solidarity that rich people have with each other. Because as Zoran Mamdani put it, it's a benefit for them to get somebody making $30 an hour to hate somebody making $20 an hour. Because if you're focused on the least fortunate, you might not notice how the most fortunate are robbing you blind.
Yep, and
Now,
that's the point.
I'm not a class reductionist. I'm not saying that bigotry
that is exactly the point, and that's been a strategy that has been tried and true. I mean, it's tried and true. Bread and circus, like that old saying, keep them entertained with bread and circus. Make sure they have some food and enough mindless entertaining, and they'll never revolt. Right? It's that concept. You do look pretty old school. Ha. What is it? Is it the microphone? I'm still in touch with my finance pals when I worked in New York, and they're forecasting some effing terrifying numbers, but they're being told to hush. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if it's bad. Does Mike not have new glasses or haircut? That's a good question. Mike is always looking rather dapper.
Racism will suddenly vanish if you address people's material conditions. But if you do shift power and wealth to workers by disempowering elites, you do remove at least some of the gasoline that demagogues use to fuel the fires of fascism. It's why socialism is seen as the antidote to fascism. But here's the thing. As bad as it is now, we could see an even worse turbocharged version of fascism in a few decades because of one major issue that we've chosen to not address. And that issue is climate change. As Common Dreams reports, if we don't cut emissions by 50% by 2030, we're not going to be able to hit our target of passing a global rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius. And as climate action...
I mean, like, I think that climate goal of 1.5 or whatever, that's GG's, folks. That's like, scientists aren't even talking about that anymore. Not really. We've kind of just accepted that at this point. These neo-Nazis need to be driven out of the country. I agree. I'm still consulting for some of these smaller firms, but I'm getting away from it. Got a full-time gig to take care of as well. Nice. Climate change is over. We lost. I think it's GG's as far as that goes.
Tracker points out, we're projected to see a 2.6 degree global rise in temperatures since we've made no progress towards the goals.
That's fantastic. Let me just kind of put that into perspective. 1.5 was the goal to not make sure that we didn't like pass certain tipping points. That was the reason why we set that goal. Unfortunately, we're not going to make that goal. That's kind of like already a not a foregone conclusion, but pretty much like certainty that we're just not going to be able to hit that. Failing that, anything else is kind of like a domino effect. Does that make sense? It's a negative feedback loop that just reinforces itself. And I think someone mentioned permafrost. Yeah, all of that is going to accelerate that. I don't know why we can't increase cloud seeding to make cool down the planet. That's not how cloud seeding works. Cloud seeding is not going to cool down the planet. I'm sorry. 1.5 was yesterday. Yeah. Hope those doomsday bunkers are climate controlled.
Set out in the Paris Climate Accord in the 10 years since it was adopted. And to say that this is going to be catastrophic would be an understatement, because by 2050, there could be up to 1.2 billion, that's billion with a B, climate refugees from developing countries in Africa, the Middle East, and island nations after climate change makes all of their homes uninhabitable, which is going to cause resource scarcity and fuel conflicts. And the richest 1%, i.e. the billionaires and multimillionaires who are disproportionately responsible for the climate change crisis, know that this is coming, which is why they're currently building doomsday bunkers to prepare for the climate apocalypse that they caused. And what's crazy is that wars over water will become a common phenomenon, yet we're letting tech billionaires build data centers for generative AI slop that's consuming the drinkable water that we need to survive. And you already know that we're not.
It's fantastic. We're doing so great. I was on a flight home a few days ago to get back to the safe country, and into the safe country, and sat next to a guy who denied climate change entirely. Turns out he works for the oil and gas industry. Yeah. I love that the people responsible and benefiting by far the most from all this will almost certainly turn around and cite the thing they insisted upon and deserve outside responsibility for because, well, the ship has sailed down. As the excuse to just double down on doing nothing because, well, the ship has sailed. Yeah, of course. Don't look up, folks. Don't look up. Yeah, we're gonna get ourselves the IRL playthrough of Fallout. I'm very excited. Maybe I should start collecting my caps already over here. Look at that. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to start my my IRL Fallout playthrough. So I'm good to go. They don't even need the water. It's such a stupid issue which could be regulated, by the way. Of course. The thing is, have you considered that it costs money to make sure that these data centers have a closed loop system where they use the limited amount of water? Like, kind of like, think of it as a big... Have you ever seen a water-cooled PC? You don't have to constantly fill that water cooler with water. You have to change it ever so often, but you don't constantly drain water from the PC cooling system, water cooling system. Well, it's kind of like the same concept. You could have these data centers run on water systems that are closed loop, where they take the X amount of water and then just use it, and keep using it. But you know, that costs money, folks, and we don't do that here. Okie dokie. I love that. Yeah, start your loot collection. Yeah, I gotta think about where I'm gonna put all my experience points. They could take a one-time amount of water in a closed loop and recycle its use, adding new water only when needed. Instead, they build to grab endless water. Well, yeah, because it's cheaper, right? Like, you could have you could have those centers be built exactly as I described it and exactly as you described it. And I imagine some are, but it's just cheaper. It's just cheaper. Jim Massa put the climate tipping points that haven't been blown past in 1995 based on oceanic data. There's a point that generally missed, in part because the diagrams they use to explain things sucks. I mean, it's cooked. It's pretty cooked. Right. Whatever is the cheapest possible cost of production, ceteris paribus, and thus the highest possible profit margin for themselves. Yep. We have mismanaged the life-supporting biosphere that we rely on for our lives. Yeah, it's kind of cooked, Bella. So there are different basins of attraction that chaotic systems like the climate orbit. When forcings happen, they kick the system state between orbiting one basin of attraction and orbiting a different basin of attraction. That's right, it's a regulation issue. Correct. It's a regulation issue. All of this is policy choice that we decided that, All of this are policy choices that we are
Not
consciously
going to have
doing.
to wait until
I don't want to set the world on fire.
the end of the century to see the consequences of climate change, because we're already seeing it. We're all seeing it. Hurricane seasons have become intense. We're seeing more extremes on both ends, hotter hots, colder colds. There's a fire season every year now, basically, with fire tornadoes. And in the near future, luxury goods could become more scarce, like chocolate and coffee. And by mid-century, around the time millennials will be old enough to retire, then our nuclear...
Yeah, like and that's not like that big of a deal, okay? Except for maybe the coffee. Like I would riot for coffee. But like if we didn't have chocolate or anything like that, like I think we'll be okay. But it's all fun and games until the water starts running out. It's all fun and games until we can't produce food because we don't have the right variables to make that food grow, whether it be droughts, whether it be floodings, whether it be temperatures that normally would be expected in certain areas, they just no longer apply and you can't grow crops there, or the crops that you need there. I mean, it's all fun and games until the water goes away. It's all fun and games until you lose year after year crops of like rice or whatever staple that you need to I don't know, feed yourselves. It's really serious. Well, I mean, we as like a society, right? Like we as in like the politicians, the governments who are being lobbied. That is a very loose use of the word we. Almonds should be banned. If I didn't have to eat another almond, I could live. Yeah, I agree. And we didn't always live like this, Seth Evans. We didn't always live like this. So the basin of attraction things were orbiting before the big forcing from fossil fuel burning was basically an ice age with Milankovitch cycles, and what things are being kicked to is it's basically a climate from when there were still dinosaurs on Earth. That's fantastic. We're gonna do great. Yep, and hence here we are.
paints a really bleak picture about what climate change will do to America by mid-century, writing, quote, "Over the next 30 years or so, the changes to American life might be short of apocalyptic, but miles of heartbreak lie between here and the apocalypse, and the future toward which we are heading will mean heartbreak for millions. Many people will go in search of new homes in cooler, more predictable places. Those travelers will leave behind growing portions of America where services and comforts will be in short supply. Let's call them dead zones. Should the demolition of America's rule of law continue, authoritarianism and climate change will reinforce each other, a vicious spiral from which it will be difficult to exit."
Nice.
And that last sentence is a huge concern because all of the political conditions that led to fascism will be exacerbated by climate change, and it could reinforce fascism in a way where it becomes unstoppable globally. But before we catastrophize about that too much, let's first talk about the political implications of climate change just here at home. It could trigger mass migration just domestically from hurricane and tornado prone states to more stable regions of the country. And that alone could create political instability and fuel partisanship or even political realignment if states don't do enough to adapt or accommodate the needs of larger populations. And if people from the South seek refuge in the North, for example, and they need resources from the state when they arrive at their new homes, the people who are already living there might get jealous and become less welcoming. But the people who can't move to more stable areas of the country will remain in areas that have been devastated, dead zones, as Newkirk called them.
Yep.
They'd live in desolate regions that are impoverished and just empty. It could cause economic panic.
Why the F is Nicki Minaj a Republican? You may need to talk to her about that. We need a war! Climate change will only embolden fascism, not refrain it. I agree. Based on what based on how things are playing out, it seems like it's only gonna reinforce that. I think that's the same argument that Mike is making. The economy is your Jenga game. Climate change is the 2-year-old careening toward it with a stick. True. Congratulations to Jeff Landy. Everyone, look at Jeff, governor of the great state of Louisiana. He's my volunteer and ambassador to Greenland, and Greenland will become part of the United States. Literally, that's actually what's happening. I have a story queued up on that. The water is a very big deal. Humidity capacity is at a very large issue. At higher temperatures, the atmosphere can hold more water, so it takes longer to fill up, which time is called a drought. And when it fills up, it holds more water, so it comes down as a torrential flood. Yep. There are more issues because it's strongly banded. Hadley circulation relies on strong temperature gradients between the equator and poles, but very equator equalize non-banded circulation. Yeah, no, it's all pretty messed up. Cashew nuts are disgusting the way we get them. I mean, they're delicious, but when I watched the documentary on them, yeah. It's all true. It won't affect his position as governor. Really? I thought he was giving up that position. I guess not. This is exactly. I had this queued up. I thought. Hey, cool. I guess. Cool.
In those areas, due to, a collapse in property value, since nobody wants to live there, grocery stores wouldn't be able to make a profit and would probably shut down, creating food deserts and a scarcity of certain goods. And if the government is going to meet these needs for people in these regions, they have to do it in a substantial way, because corporations simply aren't going to service these areas if they can't make a profit off of them. Now, Newkirk argues that things won't get so bad by mid-century that entire states would become unlivable, but even just small, subtle changes in our way of life could lead to massive political and economic upheaval, but it'd pale in comparison to what would happen in developing countries. Newkirk goes on to explain, the worst climate disruptions will happen beyond U.S. borders, but they will put pressure on American society nonetheless. Migration to the southern border, perhaps the most powerful current in American politics today, is already being driven partly by ecological collapses in Central American farm economies. International monitors expect these pressures to grow over the next several years.
Not a fan of pecans.
If the country's policy today is at all indicative, detention camps for immigrants will proliferate. Often in climate dead zones, and the southern border will become even more militarized. This would not be in America, where the founding ideals hold much sway. The movement of people might even set states against one another. Tensions in receiving zones will, without strong growing economies, create more opportunities for demagoguery. In dead zones, the dearth of public services and the fading imprimatur of the state will naturally erode local participatory democracy.
Yep.
All of this could create even better conditions than those today for the kind of transactional authoritarian government that Trump is trying to establish. Xenophobia and racism are already pillars of this movement, and they would be strengthened by mass migration. State and local leaders affected by disasters might supplicate themselves to the president in order to receive the patronage of disaster aid. A hurricane or mega fire during election season might be a convenient excuse for federal intervention. The emerging Trump doctrine views empathy as a weakness and public welfare as a usurpation of the natural hierarchy. His authoritarianism is perfectly suited to an era of climate strife.
Yeah, and this is not like this is not theory. This is he's literally done this, right? Like, he conditions aid to states that have suffered from natural disasters based on whether or not they're good to him or whether or not they're subservient to him. As an example, right? our choice right now is bad or worse. Kind of, yeah.
So with the prospect of 1.2 billion climate refugees by 2050, most of which will have to be welcomed by developed countries, you can already imagine the ways that fascists are going to exploit that crisis for political gain. They'll encourage tribalism and more nationalism that will resonate with Americans, not because climate refugees will make their lives worse, but because their lives will already be bad because of climate change, and climate refugees will be easy scapegoats. And just ask yourself, do you think that our government is prepared to deal with all of these issues by 2050?
No. No. Is it true Trump says he's going to invade Venezuela? I don't know. What I do know is that he continues to illegally, extrajudicially kill people, and he's building up military there. He has illegally seized oil that's not ours. So I don't know. Is it possible? Yeah, he's certainly painting that picture.
I think we all know the answer to that question. A government that lets 68,000 Americans die every single year due to a lack of healthcare isn't going to give a shit about desperate populations who've lost everything due to climate change. If they don't care about you literally dying, they sure as fuck aren't going to give a damn about you losing your home due to climate change. Cronyism could become even more rampant, and corrupt politicians are probably going to try to further enrich billionaires and by then trillionaires in order to get on their good side, so that way maybe they could be welcomed into their doomsday bunkers or get rich enough to build their own doomsday bunkers. The question is, what are we supposed to do? And I do have two simple answers. The first and most obvious is to
why am I still at work? Hey, have a good one. Have a good one. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate that. It's high time to abolish the billionaire class. I agree. That he said he was. That is. Yeah. I have to take a look at that. But he's certainly been trying to paint that picture for a minute.
Obviously address climate change directly, both in terms of mitigation to the extent that we still can, and adaptation. We have to simultaneously try to stop what's coming, but also prepare for the worst case scenario.
Well, the environmental issue is a climate issue. Like, climate change is an environmental issue. You can't separate the two. That's not how that works.
But that's easier said than done, of course, because our economic system is fueling the crisis, so you can't meaningfully address climate change unless you address the system itself. But the problem is, there's just no political appetite for that, because Americans, quite frankly, don't give a shit about climate change, even though it's already affecting them. See for yourself.
The worry in terms of climate change, simply put, hasn't shifted. It has not reached the majority of Americans. What are we talking about? Greatly worried about climate change. You go all the way back to 1989, it was 35%. 2000, 40%. 2020, 46%. And in 2025, look at that. It's 40%, the same number as we had 25 years ago back in
Wow, that's fantastic. We're doing great.
2000, and then only just 5 points higher than we had back in 1989. Really, we've just seen consistency on this issue. The bottom line is that the climate change message that folks who, of course, believe that climate change is real and is quite worrisome, simply put, has not really worked with the American people. Top issue facing the United States, climate change. It was 3% in 2021, 2% on average of polls in 2023, and this year the average of polls.
So, in other words, like, Americans are not concerned about hearing the truth because we've been propagandized. We've been propagandized for decades by the fossil fuel industry to not care about that. Where in my local area, the weather has been the same for 40 plus years, but the environmental issue in the area has gotten worse. Got runoff from old coal mines, destroying the river, and it's like turned 3 rovers in the area rusty red. All of that is a climate change issue, okay? Just because your specific area hasn't changed in 40 years does not mean that that is the totality of the rest of the planet and how the massive systems in the earth work. So, like, that seems kind of, how do I put this? Short-sighted. Okay, that seems reductive. That's like sitting in your room. Okay, imagine you sit in a room and it has no windows, and you think that there's no outside because you've never seen the outside before. That seems silly and reductive. Meanwhile, like, there's a whole ass world outside. Okay. So Yeah, that seems silly, and I feel like that's intellectually lazy to say that climate change isn't a problem because it isn't a problem in your area. That is pretty lazy. Do better.
2. It is very, very low on the list of priorities. I was trying to count it out in the Gallup poll, and basically it was so low down. You know, I was counting all the different issues, almost lost track. It was like 15th or 20th. It was just very, very low down. So the bottom line is, not only are we seeing that the number has not really moved over the last 36 years, but in terms of being the top issue, it simply put has not broken through.
It's bleak. And that's a failure on part of our media and policymakers. But to be fair, climate change is one of those issues that affects us in a more indirect and...
Yeah, and like another thing that's kind of like unique to this problem, to this crisis, is that we, as like in general, we can't seem to grasp like the broad picture of how this all works, right? Like the Earth is incredibly complex. Okay, all these systems that we're talking about are complex, and it's very easy to just shrug off because you don't see it. It's not something that you don't see, right? Like the polar vortex that's breaking. Okay, you don't see the polar vortex warping. You just you read on the news that like, oh, that's weird, Houston had an unusual blizzard that killed like hundreds of people that one year, and like that's it. It doesn't click with a lot of people how that works, and I think that's kind of like another problem that that we're facing here when it comes to trying to educate people on the climate crisis. The market will not provide a solution. Nope. Yeah. The novel entities crisis is also largely independent of climate, soil, nutrient depletion as it degrades nutritive values of crops largely as too. Yeah. The Earth will always survive, but we may not. And we may survive. Like it's not. It might not be the end of the human species. It's just going to be incredibly miserable. The way our future might shape out. You know, maybe within a couple of generations from now. Like we'll be gone. I'll be gone by the time the real bad stuff happens. Or maybe not. Maybe it accelerates. Beforehand, I have no idea. The catastrophic changes that have been predicted have not happened. In the 90s, they predicted that the Earth would be uninhabitable now. No, that's not. That's not how that works. When it's unusually hot, it's climate change. But if it's cold, no one says anything. No, that's not true at all. When it's cold, it's also climate change. Like the climate change whole thing. When you have something like the polar vortex warping, and you have like unusual cold like snaps. Like, for example, we had one of those just not that long ago, where our area fell down to the teens, and then right now it's like 70s, okay? That's not normal. That's not normal. The cold snaps that are happening are not normal either. So I don't know, like, what news, what kind of scientists you're paying attention to, but yeah, if it's cold, it also is the climate crisis. That's why. People have been saying the crucial time is now for decades. Yeah, because we've known about this for decades and no one has done anything, and now it's kind of all come to a head. Like just because we're not seeing like hellfire, you know, doesn't mean that the problems aren't here. And I feel like that's kind of short-sighted to say that. Whether cyclical and climate of regions do change over time, yes, but not like this. These are all nonsensical, short-sighted talking points. Yeah, climate changes all the time, but not like this. And we're not talking about weather. We're talking about the broad systems that the Earth relies on. Things like the polar vortex, like all the jet streams. I saw something a few months ago that explained how the jet stream is being affected and how you could even see it when Texas froze a few years ago. I think it was linked to something. Yeah, the climate crisis. It's 63 in ground level news. I don't know if I said hello. In Salt Lake City, it should be around 30 this time of year. It's super spooky. Yeah. Yeah, like at the end of October, we had snow. We had snowflakes. That's not normal. We shouldn't be having snowflakes at the end of October.
Circuitous way, and because of that, it just doesn't feel like it's the number one cause. For example, like if you lose your home due to a hurricane or fire fueled by climate change, sure, that's a consequence of climate change, but your primary concern isn't going to be we should address climate change. It's going to be your immediate needs: food, shelter, housing, not climate change itself. So that's why this is so difficult. I think we all kind of subconsciously view this as something that's far off, a distant threat that, you know, needs to be addressed only after we address more salient material issues first. And unfortunately, I just don't think that countries are going to be able to meet the moment by 2030, which means that our fate is pretty much sealed. So in terms of what we do, the second answer to that question is to kill capitalism before it kills us. Again, easier said than done. But this isn't something that we're going to be able to do in time to prevent a climate catastrophe. So the next best thing is to lay the groundwork to create an economic system where resources aren't hoarded by the richest 1% of people. So that way, by the time shit really hits the fan, there will already be a more equitable distribution of wealth, and governments will be more capable of dealing with various crises.
Yeah, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. We're not talking about one abnormal event. We're talking about a series of abnormal events that keep happening. Right, we keep seeing once in a 1,000-year whatever flood, blizzard, whatever it is. These are not normal. None of this is normal. Citing one incident in the 1940s is not you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Both of you are missing the point. My phone died when you were using the bedroom analogy. I was saying that you're short-sighted. Saying that just because your area hasn't changed in 40 plus years doesn't mean that that's not the case around the planet. The planet is a very complex set of systems, and that would be like you having a bedroom with no windows, and saying that the outside doesn't exist because you've never seen it. There are leftists in Los Angeles who are shocked by triple-digit temperatures when we've had that for decades. Depending on where you are, no, that might not be normal. You're missing the point. You're missing the point. So basically what you're saying, Redmond Berry, is that you know more than all the climate scientists who have spent their entire careers trying to explain this to people like you. Right? Like, to try to explain this to people like you. And you refuse to understand and grasp outside of your bubble. Because I see it. I see it. I see it in my area. I see it in Florida.
Including mass migration. Because think about it. If Americans have healthcare
we're the slow cooking
and
frog.
housing and a livable wage, most, I think, will feel more inclined, not all, but most will feel more inclined to welcome climate refugees if they don't feel like it's going to be a zero-sum game where they're going to have to compete with even more people for resources that are increasingly scarce. But politicians just won't have to deliver materially alone. Like, they'll need to foster an empathetic society that values multiculturalism and views immigration as...
Oh, sorry. Also, to add to that point, I think that also... I think also we have to rework the way we also have to rework the way we think about how we interact with the planet. Okay, the planet isn't a isn't a resource that we extract. Okay, we are all part of this planet. We're all part of this habitat. Okay. We have to stop thinking about things like resources and how much money this is and how much profit we can derive from this, how much we can extract from this. We need to stop thinking like that, and we need to start thinking about how our relationship to nature, our relationship to the climate, to the planet. I don't trust Amy Goodman and Bill McKibben. I have no idea who that is. If you're talking about Amy Goodman, the journalist, why are you citing a journalist? I'm not asking you to cite a journalist. I'm asking you to look at the science. What are you talking about? Are you saying Amy Goodman from the I forgot what her channel is. Democracy Now? We treat the planet where we eat and drink like a public dumpster at the same time. Yep. Yeah, like, why are you citing a journalist? Who cares? I'm not talking about a journalist. I'm talking about climate research. I'm talking about the body of climate scientists who have been talking about this for decades. What are you talking about? People say things like we have seen 12 inches of sea level rise without saying what time frame is sea level is rising because we are still coming out of an ice age. Nope, not like this. Nope, that is completely incorrect. That is incorrect. The reason why we're seeing sea level rise is because the ice is melting, because we're accelerating the warming of the planet. In fact, the Arctic is experiencing a much faster rate of warming than the rest of the planet. This is completely against the science, and this is something that I'm very, very, very well versed in. So I'm gonna have to say that you just don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and I do.
As the net positive that it is. But this means that we...
Amy Goodman is one of the most disciplined and conscientious journalists working today, but I don't like what she says, so I don't trust her. You don't have to... No, I'm not even, like, dunking on Amy Goodman at all. Just to be clear, like, I'm just perplexed as to why are we talking about a journalist who again, this has nothing to do with Amy Goodman. I respect her work at Democracy Now! I'm citing the scientist. I talk to actual scientists who work in the field, who have done this, who have visited the Arctic.
would effectively have to undo decades of capitalist brainwashing.
Leftists aren't always go to science and numbers. Consider the population bomb from 1968. That is a complete red herring. What are we talking about? What does this have to do with the science? And I would argue that saying that just because you're a leftist or not a leftist, that doesn't mean you don't have the science behind you. That's kind of silly. That's short-sighted. Why is it like, why do you have to imply that just because you are a leftist, then X? Does that make sense? This is short-sighted. What does this have to do with anything, Tilferi? I don't really care. Everyone should be reducing their emissions. China is no exception. Like, China is no exception. Why would we not complain about China? Of course we would. You can't also ignore what we've done here in the United States. And as the UK, I'm sure the industrialization and the industrialization also has had an impact too. Like, everyone needs to cooperate on this. Like, this is not something that you can sit out of, whether you're the UK or China or the United States. They're just gish galloping dipshit talking points. Yeah, this makes no sense whatsoever.
To even get to the point where like, racist ass Americans would consider welcoming climate.
We're scrambling for straws here. Like, well, but Amy Goodman, but the population bomb. Who cares? What are you talking about? Who cares? I'm fine with reducing emissions he has been doing. You can see the results. Literally, we don't have the smog alerts like we used to have. Yeah, and it's not just about reducing emissions. It's about cutting them. It's about cutting them because our very same emissions are the ones that are causing the problems. It's my stance on global warming, saying everyone needs to reduce it, but only the G7 are. But countries that cause the most increase their CO2 footprint. What are you talking about? The United States has historically, which is arguably the one that counts, done the most. China is only the new player, the new kid on the block. While it's still not okay, and just because someone isn't doing their part, as an example, just as a hypothetical, just because someone isn't doing their part doesn't mean that we shouldn't do the right thing either.
Refugees from developing countries without throwing temper tantrums. But I want to be clear. This is not a change that is going to take place overnight. And the reality is that people will view immigrants and other marginalized groups as the cause of all of their problems of the present and future if we don't give them a new common enemy to hate. And that's where the left has to come in. We have to build class solidarity among the working class now by demonizing rich people, explicitly so.
Yep.
We have to get Americans to open their eyes and see rich people as the cause of all of their problems, because they are. Step number one is just getting them to stop hating the wrong 1% and start hating the right 1%. Once they understand that they have nothing because the rich has everything, that's when you'll have enough popular will to actually make meaningful changes to the system, redistribute wealth, which will then enable us to build a government more capable of adapting to a climate-induced dystopia that's only decades away. But
but you're not understanding, Teferi. You're missing the point. China may be the new kid on the block, but when it comes to cumulative emissions, we're it. It's us. It's the United States. The reason why all of this, because like releasing CO2 doesn't just change the climate now. Okay, it takes time for all of these downward effects. It takes decades for all of this to kind of come to a head. We're responsible for the majority of what we're seeing now. So again, you can try to paint China or whoever, but the reality is it's an all hands on deck kind of thing. And if China, let's just say, if China doesn't play ball, that doesn't excuse us from not doing the right thing anyways. I'm headed to the store last trip before Christmas. Hey, thank you for stopping by, and I appreciate the support. Thank you. I find it hard to believe this feigned ignorance isn't intentional. It's 2025, right? Like you would think that before you speak, you would have some kind of like understanding before you talk. But people Globus, let me tell you, people Globus, they love to talk first. They put the they love to put the cart before the horse and think that they know what they're talking about, when in reality they don't. Yeah, we're way past the point of parsing out who's the most responsible. Radical changes need to be made globally. Regardless, you're right. You're right. Regardless of who did what and what. Yeah, China's the new kid on the block. We have the most cumulative responsibility. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's a global effort that has to be done, and it's not. That's the truth. It's not.
Come inertia and things stay the
Climate
same.
change was an accepted fact, but over the past decade, the world has regressed. This regression in picking up in pace, right-wingers say we should follow old book rather than science. Yeah, I know, Soul Life.
And just continue to get worse year after year. Be prepared, because turbocharged fascism that's on the horizon is going to be powerful enough to swallow us whole. And I don't want that to happen. So I think we need to help people understand how fascism, capitalism, and climate change are all interconnected.
Yep.
It is a three-headed beast that you can't slay unless you cut off all three heads.
Do yourself a favor. Okay, we're gonna have to speed run through some of these. I think somebody mentioned the windmills. I think it was Soul Life over here. The Trump administration pauses lease for some offshore wind projects, citing, quote, national security concerns, which is obviously absurd. The Trump administration is pausing leases for 5 offshore wind projects due to national security concerns identified by the Department of Defense. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum announced on Monday. Nice. I'm not right or left, I'm common sense. That's fantastic. Fantastically ignorant way of saying you don't know what you're talking about. And just to be clear, like, you don't have to be right or left or whatever. But just that notion tells me that you don't know what you're talking about. The wealthy are putting their faith in perspective deity or the distant prospect of uploading consciousness to save them, and that's not going to happen. Thank you for putting up the links, Heat, so check out all that stuff if you want to support the channel. Woke, a difficult truth should know that Telfari is a believer of a hoax called climate change. China hoax. The hidden danger of a 3-headed dragon is that it also has 3 butts. Hold on, I got something. Wait a minute. There you go. Vicky, welcome. Today's actions address emerging national security risks, including the rapid evolution of the relevant adversary technologies and the vulnerabilities created by large-scale offshore wind projects in proximity to our near-coast population centers. Fantastic. I was trying to explain why concern for climate change hasn't grown. My explanation is valid even if we disagree on the evidence. The reason why the concern for climate change hasn't grown is because fossil fuel industries have spent billions of dollars, millions, hundreds of millions, whatever, to make sure that people don't know what's going on, and have really done a fantastic job at propagandizing people. Period, point blank. That's what's happening. The fossil fuel industry has spent an absurd amount of amount of time and money to make sure that they that all eyes are not on them. But the reality is the climate crisis is real, regardless of what you believe or not. And nothing is going to change that. Really, like, it doesn't matter. The reality is the same whether or not you believe it. And that's it. That's literally it. The reason why we don't have the climate movement or people believing in climate change is because the right wing has spent an absurd amount of energy and money to dissuade people from the truth. The other reason concern for climate change hasn't grown is that people who initially closed their ears are now panicking a bit as it is too late to correct course and it's easier to pretend. I mean, to a degree, I think you might be onto something there. Also, a lot of them are older and won't have to deal with the effects. Yeah, Carlos, it's also the politicians' fault. Yeah, who are bought by the fossil fuel industry. They have spent billions of dollars throughout the decades to buy politicians, yes, to make sure that none of this gets fixed. Smoking was covered up for years too. Yeah. And incidentally, a lot of the people that did the whole defense for smoking for all these tobacco companies, lo and behold, they found a home in the fossil fuel industry. I'm not even joking. You can look that up. Yeah, don't forget that COINTELPRO never ended. Activists and have been imprisoned and assassinated and were not bankrupted. Yeah, that's another point too. Anyone who actually stands up and gets too close does get dealt with too. I mean, like, wasn't there like an entire Like, there's still an entire, like, propaganda arm against, like, Greta Thunberg, for example. Always constantly getting attacked. As an example, obviously she didn't get assassinated or anything like that. But the point being is that, like, yeah, all these activists and whatnot constantly get attacked and get called alarmist and get called crazy, all this stuff. So yeah, it stands to reason that no wonder the public doesn't really care about any of this as a whole. Yeah, Greta Thunberg called the Antichrist. Yeah, like stuff like this. They use the same lawyers. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I once convinced a coworker that climate change is real in 5 minutes of common sense talk. It clicked for him like, oh yeah, and lasted 5 seconds. He said Earth survived, naming the dinosaurs as an example. I love it. I love it. A symptom of alienation from actual political power, a form of political power at least. Okay, national security risk, got it. Inherent to large-scale offshore wind projects, unclassified reports from the U.S. government have found the movement of massive turbine blades in the highly reflected towers create radar interference called clutter. The clutter caused by other offshore wind projects obscures legitimate moving targets and generates false targets in the vicinity of wind projects. Off the coast of the United States? That doesn't make any sense. The actions affect projects off the coast of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Virginia, and New York. According to the Department of Interior, that 5 leases that will be affected are Vineyard Wind 1, Revolution Wind, Commercial and Sunrise Wind, and Empire Wind. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont called the move yet another erratic anti-business move by Trump that will drive up the prices of electricity in Connecticut and throughout the region. This project is nearly completion and providing good-paying clean energy jobs. That's right. It's a contradiction of here's the free market where basically it's impossible to opt out of the production choices we've made, consuming hydrocarbons. Now bootstrap your individual way out with your consumer choices. Yep. You have no choice on the production side of the equation, but somehow you, the consumer, should be able to unilaterally revolutionize all those admittedly known to be problematic supply side choices. Yep. Don't worry, Earth has been through plenty of mass extinction events before. Yeah. Can't believe that Trump is basically refusing all emergency relief funds for blue states when they're the net contributors, and is not a case for withholding federal taxes. That's right, solely through the power of your hyper-rational and totally free consumer choice-making. Also, we cannot actually impose just the obvious necessary changes on the producer's side with the state's monopoly on force because of reasons. Yeah, let's not think too much about that. Virgin wrote in a Twitter post about the move that the projects were expensive, unreliable, and heavily subsidized offshore wind farms, as opposed to, you know, the heavily subsidized fossil fuel industry. So, yeah, no, this is obviously incorrect. Trump has made clear his distaste for windmills in many public events on a campaign trail. Wind is the worst! We don't approve windmills, we don't approve it, I'm sorry. Thank you, President Trump. So I think we have, ruining your oceans, yeah. Stop the windmills, fantastic. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you, President Trump. All right, folks, we got one more. Well, we got two more, but I'll run through one really quickly before we do this insane stuff that's happening here. Just the insane stuff. In a disgusting move, the DHS offers for undocumented immigrants $3,000 if they voluntarily leave by the end of 2025. I don't believe this at all. At all. Why would left be best? Centrist is the best. That just means you're probably no idea what you're talking about. Very, very suspect. I feel like our lack of knowledge and the harm it causes with uranium and mining and everything horrific throughout the 40s up until the 70s and 80s, objectively horrible. I honestly wish we had an utterly gutted and federally hamstrung literally any chance of nuclear energy having a chance of going nowhere. I mean, like, it's not, we can still do nuclear energy. Really what it is we have to stop, we have to stop fossil fuel. Like, we have to stop fossil fuels. And, if nuclear power offers us a way out, then yeah, I will take that. At this point, I will take anything to get us off fossil fuels, really. That's kind of what the, it's kind of what the, name of the game here is. Nah, that is the point why, why left has a superiority concept. Man, we used to have a better class of trolls. We used to have proper trolls. We used to have proper trolls. That's sad. Yeah, Louisiana. You see he's gonna name some ships after himself? Of course. We can, but post 80s and 90s federal restrictions, it made nuclear just not worth it. Yeah, but like that's kind of like the problem with these are policy choices, right? Like why does power why do we need that to be like a private enterprise, right? Like the government can just say, like, you know what, we're not doing power as a private thing anymore. We're just gonna do it ourselves. And with that, we can do whatever we want. We can lift these restrictions. We can put restrictions somewhere else. Whatever. And we can have nuclear power plants where we need them. And obviously, nuclear power now, the technology that nuclear power has now is not the same that was not the same even decades ago. So I don't know. Look, I wish that we didn't have to resort to something like nuclear, but at the same time, we can't keep emitting fossil fuels. It just can't. We just can't do it. Nuclear provides us some kind of auxiliary where other renewables might not. But yeah, the technology to do nuclear is far different nowadays. Sarah's, hey, welcome. Funny how right-wingers say I'm not right or left. They're just eating the markers. They're eating the crayons. Yeah, they're eating more crayons than usual. The US has 59 nuclear plants which provide 10% of our electricity. That's something. Yeah, but we could do better in areas where we could do better in areas where renewable energy like solar or wind are not available. Yeah, Telfer DM'd me, so I banned him. It's all good. I'm not interested in continuing that. Anyways, centrism is only genociding half of whatever targeted minority. True. We just kept throwing more and more restrictions on it until nuclear energy companies started to pull out due to insane costs just to start the plants. Yeah, and to a degree, I understand that, but that's not, that's not the same technology nowadays. Fascinating to see a split on the left regarding nuclear power. I kind of see that, but I think that, like, at this point, and I used to be more anti-nuclear. I used to be more anti-nuclear, but at this point, I don't think we have a choice. If you would have asked me like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have been more anti-nuclear. But the reality is, it's just, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. The only thing that we need to be doing is getting out of fossil fuels, like shutting down fossil fuels. Unfortunately, yeah, there's going to be like renewable energy and stuff like that is going to have an upfront environmental cost. But it's definitely a trade-off that we're kind of having to calculate versus continuing to destroy the planet in this manner. And I think that most scientists would agree that the trade-off is essentially we're kind of locked into, regardless. Leftists were all against nukes back in the day. Well, nuclear bombs. But yeah, there's always been this conversation about nuclear power. Anyways, Elon wants solar panels in space. I wanted to say something, but why bother? It's okay. I admire your strain. If I were you, I'd just go down the line. No, see, that's kind of like the art, right? The art of being a mod, right? The art of being a mod. Oh, that's a fair point. The powers that be were never really interested in nuclear power for civilian for its own sake, but rather only as ever cover for nuclear weapon material production. Yeah, we're using the wrong fuel. Like I said, technology is advanced, Bruno. I feel like maybe nuclear power nowadays would be different. So I'm not opposed to nuclear energy per se. Anyways, yeah, so the DHS is increasing offers for undocumented migrants to 3,000 on YouTube. I'm reading the chat. If they voluntarily leave by the end of 2025. There's no guarantee that this is actually happening. Where's all this money coming from? Right? It was $1,000. It was $1,000. Where's all this money coming from? One and done. I'm concerned that the Brown University professor who's unalive apparently a huge presence in nuclear fission. I heard about that. I don't know like how related all of this stuff is. But yeah, I heard about that. That they were involved in some kind of nuclear projects or work or whatever. I had an itchy trigger finger. It's a balance, folks. It's a balance, you know. It's a balance and a vibe check, really. So there's no, I don't even know like how would this even work? And also, if we have all this money to give them, right? Like people are complaining that what immigrants are taking all this like money and social safety nets, and here we are giving them thousands of dollars and a air fare. So clearly something is not adding up here, and it's funny how nobody makes a big deal about the racist MAGA people somehow don't have a problem with this. So fundamentally, it's not. We're kind of admitting here that that it's okay to give people a leg up. It's okay to give people thousands of dollars, right, for help, and we apparently we have the money for that. To deport them, as long as we get to deport them, right? As long as we get to deport them. Instead of putting all that money and all that resource into immigration reform to have more judges, in asylum, to handle the asylum caseload, instead of putting all that money that would be required to handle all these flights and funding and all that, we could just make programs to help people and make programs to facilitate these folks to become citizens, and to just integrate them already here, since they're here, and become American citizens. Right. We don't want them here because we give them money, so we want them to give. So we want to give them money to leave. Tell me again how it's not racism. Yep. I'm not gonna find an Uber by the time I'm done billing. Oof. Instead of funny chat, we have a brainy chat today. Better get on that. Yeah. Alright, we got one more before we get out of here. Trump announces he's appointing Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry to serve as U.S. Special Envoy to Greenland. Yeah, we do have both. That is true. That is true. President Trump on Sunday announced that he's appointing Louisiana Governor Landry to serve as the U.S. Special Envoy to Greenland, the vast semi-autonomous territory that Denmark that Trump said he needs the U.S. to take over. Jeff understands how essential Greenland is to our national security and will strongly advance our country's interests for the safety, security, and survival of our allies and indeed the world. That's not going to happen, dude. Okay, like you can't just say that you're going to annex a territory that doesn't belong to you. That's not a thing. President, this is insane. This is ludicrous. This is delusional. Okay, this is delusional. Really, that's the word, delusional. Trump, during his presidential transition, said, and in the early months of his return to the White House, repeatedly called for U.S. jurisdiction over Greenland and has not ruled out military force to take over the mineral-rich, strategically located Arctic island. The issue had drifted out the headlines in recent months, but in August, Danish officials summoned the U.S. ambassador following a report that at least 3 people with connections to Trump had carried out covert influence operations in Greenland. Earlier this year, Vice President J.D. Vance visited a remote U.S. military base on the island and accused Denmark of underinvesting there. Trump has said that Greenland is crucial for U.S. security and hasn't ruled out taking the island by military force, even though Denmark is a NATO ally of the U.S. Landry took office as governor in 2024. His term ends in 2028. It's an honor to serve you in this volunteer position to make Greenland a part of the U.S., he wrote in Twitter, in which he thanked Trump for the appointment. He added, "This is no way affects my position as governor in Louisiana." Gotta love this. Fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic. Good stuff. Good stuff. None of this is happening, by the way. This is delusional, okay? Like, the idea that the United States is going to take over Greenland is delusional, okay? It's not happening. Unless we're willing to start a world war, essentially. It's not going to happen, and it's never going to happen. Trump is in this delusional state of mind that he thinks that somehow he's going to take over Greenland. It's just not. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. Is this a story of Trump unilaterally appointing an envoy to Greenland, bypassing Denmark? Yeah, and said envoy is the governor of Louisiana. Denmark, a NATO ally of the U.S., and Greenland have said that the island is not for sale and condemned reports of the U.S. gathering intelligence there. The U.S. push for Greenland is also opposed by Russia and much of Europe. The Embassy of Denmark in Washington did not immediately respond for a request to comment about Landry's appointment. The Danish Defense Intelligence Service said in a report earlier that the United States is using its economic power to assert its will and threaten military force against friend and foe alike. The service, in its annual assessment, said that Washington's greater assertiveness under the Trump administration also comes as China and Russia seek to diminish Western and especially American influence. Strategic importance of the Arctic is rising in the conflict because of climate change, by the way. The reason why all of this is becoming strategically important is because of climate change. I know nothing of about Greenland, but I can confidently say it deserves better. The strategic importance of the Arctic is rising as the conflicts between Russia and the West intensify, and the growing security and strategic force on the Arctic by the United States will further accelerate these developments. Cool. Yeah, all of these, like, this is all like, hey, you want to know what the future looks like? It looks like war over important territory that opens up because of the climate crisis that has melted the ice. That's what the future looks like. The climate subtext is rarely highlighted in reporting on the schemes to annex Greenland and Canada. I agree, 100%. 1000%. %. I would not say this is delusional. The new rules in the rules-based order are there are no rules. Yeah, I know. I'm saying that, like, he's thinking that this is how it's gonna work out. Hand over unsub button. The goal of annexing Canada and Greenland is to steal the oil and gas and minerals, and among other things. Yes, and the supply and the shipping lanes that will be open. In their head, the economic shipping lanes that they think are going to be theirs is what they want. Conquering the poles is a right-wing climate strategy. Yeah, that's the yes. Yeah, that is the right-wing climate strategy, is to say screw it instead of, like, actually solving the problem. We're going to be ahead of it and then just take advantage when the poles melt. Right, it's just a bunch of newspeak paper over the reality that they don't want us to have democracy. Yeah, no doubt about it. Alright, folks, I gotta get out of here. They don't want us to have a transparent conversation where we have all an equal say about these real issues. Yep. Alright, folks, I gotta get out of here. It is my weekend. My holiday weekend starts today. Basically. I'll see you guys tomorrow on this space at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of you guys and your support. You guys are what makes this channel go. Seriously, thank you guys. Thank you, Heat, for the tier 1 sub. I know you're already gone, but just a shout out. Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are the real MVPs. Thank you all for the new follows and whatnot. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hassler, for modding the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Twitch chat. Seriously, you guys are awesome. Mary Chrysler. Thank you, Michael Hassler. Ladybug, thank you. Nadia, thank you. Schmegley, thank you. Sarah, Soul Life, Vicky, Seth Evans, Looney Tunes, JK, Redmond Berry, Bruno. I'm just gonna go up and down the list, okay? Sorry if I miss you. Ladybug, I don't know if I said it. Said your name. Schmegley, don't know if I missed you. Sir Brewski, Globus, of course. Hey, folks, please go check out Globus the Elder. Globus the Elder, twitch.tv/Globus_the_elder. Judgment Free Zone. Oh boy, I think I got everybody, or close to everybody. Jesse James. See you later. Thank you. Appreciate that. USANs need more holidays. I feel that. Unhappy year to the woke KDT. Appreciate it. No, we'll be here. We'll be here next week. So at least here on Twitch, no more streams until the next week. Tomorrow will be the last stream, the last live stream on this space. It will be at 7 p.m. So check that out. And after that, we'll be back. The same process is going to be next week, folks. So it'll be Monday, Tuesday, and then we are out of here. So I appreciate all of that, all of your support. Thank you. Have a good break and agitate more. Yes, that's what we do. That's what we're here for, right? Agitate, organize. What is it? Educate, agitate, and organize. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it, folks. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Wait, actually, I have something here. Before I go, okay, I got it queued up, folks. Thank you all for being here. Feliz Navidad. Hey, thank you. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce that. Froelich Weihnachten. Thank you. Yeah, hold it. Okay, we're ready. We're ready to go. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Wait for it. Alvion, I hope to see you guys in the next one, which will be Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Okay?
Might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there.
See you, folks.
I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen, Vicky.
Choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright.
Bye.
The months drifted into years, while I shifted in and out of